and welcome to Firstpost Live, where we bring you the day's top 4 stories from across the world. I am Grishin Garland, live from the Firstpost studios. Let's begin with the headlines. US President Donald Trump to host Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House for high-stakes talks aimed at ending the nearly 2-year war in Gaza, free hostages and disarm Hamas. Cleanup efforts begin in Kyiv after Russia launched nearly 600 drones and 48 missiles at the Ukrainian capital and other cities, killing at least 4 and leaving dozens injured. In a thinly veiled dig at the US, China pushes to strengthen cooperation with North Korea and work together to oppose what it calls hegemony as foreign ministers of the two countries hold talks in Beijing. Moldova's ruling pro-European Union party wins parliamentary elections with over 50% of the votes. The polls were overshadowed by the accusations of Russian interference in the former Soviet country. And Nepal imposes travel ban on ousted Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli as part of investigations into deadly unrest earlier this month that left at least 73 people dead and forced government collapse. Hello and welcome. We begin with some of the latest updates from West Asia. The United Nations has reinstated sanctions on Iran over its nuclear program. And in response, Tehran has condemned these sanctions as unjustifiable. In a statement, the Iranian foreign minister called the move legally baseless. In fact, it also urged all nations to refrain from recognizing the alleged illegal situation, and even vowed a firm and appropriate response. On the other hand, the Iranian parliament denounced the sanctions. It then went into a closed-door session that was likely aimed at discussing the country's response. Reports mention that Iran is also mulling abandoning the nuclear non-proliferation treaty and rushing for the bomb. Meanwhile, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said that the country was ready to overcome the sanctions. Listen in.
Ultimately, it's not as if the sky will fall and we'll have to surrender if they go through with this. The reality is that with the measures we have in place, with the relationships we maintain with our neighbors, with the countries in Eurasia, BRICS, and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and with the interactions that have been forming, as well as with the people of our own country, and Iranians who care about Iran and the territorial integrity of the nation, and who believe in the dignity and pride of the Iranian people, we will be able to overcome this situation.
Now these reimposed sanctions froze Iranian assets abroad, halted arms deals with Tehran, and even penalized any development of Iran's ballistic missile program, among other measures. In fact, it came via a mechanism known as snapback, which is included in Iran's 2015 nuclear deal with world powers. Now the sanctions were initiated by the UK, France and Germany at the UNSC. Iran tried last-ditch diplomatic push at the UN General Assembly in New York, but efforts by its officials and also by its allies, Russia and China, failed to stop the sanctions.
Yesterday at the Security Council, the West rejected a rational proposal from China and Russia to extend the 2015 agreement on the Iranian nuclear program to allow time for diplomacy. This definitely exposed the West's policy of sabotaging the search for constructive solutions in the Security Council and its desire to extract unilateral concessions from Tehran through blackmail and pressure. We consider this policy unacceptable, and all manipulations to restore UN sanctions against Iran, as well as the sanctions themselves, are illegal.
The European nations then accused Iran of violating a 2015 deal aimed at stopping the country from developing a nuclear bomb. However, Iran has repeatedly denied seeking nuclear weapons. In fact, in response, Tehran recalled its ambassadors to Britain, France and Germany for consultations. The European powers had also offered to delay the move conditionally to facilitate talks for a long-term deal. And now, with sanctions in place, the West is still pushing for dialogue.
Has created and armed a network of malign proxy forces destabilizing the region. In addition, it has for many years been engaged in a nuclear program which goes far beyond any plausible civilian use. For us, it is imperative Iran must never acquire a nuclear weapon. Since Iran clearly does not comply with its obligations under the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action agreed to in 2015, we had no choice but to trigger the snapback of sanctions. Following a clear vote by the Security Council yesterday, sanctions will be effective later today. But let me emphasize, we remain open to negotiations on a new agreement. Diplomacy can and should continue.
These sanctions followed the failed diplomatic efforts aimed at reviving nuclear talks that were derailed after the US and Israel struck Iranian nuclear facilities in June this year. But now, these new restrictions seem to be adding to Iran's economic woes, because the country is already struggling with crippling US sanctions, which were reimposed after Trump's withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal in 2018. Now let's shift our focus to the deadly Typhoon Bualoi that ravaged Vietnam after battering the Philippines. The typhoon, which made landfall in northern Vietnam earlier today, has left at least 11 people dead, while nearly 20 remain missing. The storm, which is the 10th to hit Vietnam this year, left behind a trail of destruction with thousands of houses and businesses damaged or destroyed in at least 3 provinces in the country. Several streets were flooded, rows of houses were damaged, and even power grids were knocked out. In fact, the typhoon wreaked havoc up to an extent that even electrical poles were uprooted along Vietnam's coastline, leaving more than 347,000 families without power. Bualoi has so far damaged 245 houses and ravaged nearly 1,400 hectares of rice and other crops. It has also cut off access to several areas, and the storm has now lost some of its strength and is headed towards Laos.
I've witnessed many storms, but in terms of wind power, this is one of the strongest I've ever encountered because of its intense gusts.
Bualoi moved along Vietnam's northern central coastline. Then it made a touchdown in the northern coastal province of Ha Tinh, with waves roaring as high as 8 meters. The storm then brought intense rainfall and strong winds, with it that ripped off roofs of the houses. The authorities have now issued warnings for floods and landslides.
The storm raged through the night. In my apartment building, most residents had to stay awake, holding on to their doors. During the previous typhoon, we didn't have to take such measures. But this time, if we didn't hold onto the doors, the wind would have blown them in. It went on like this all night.
More than 53,000 people were evacuated to schools and medical centers, which were converted into temporary shelters ahead of the typhoon hitting Vietnam. Airport authorities in the country say more than 180 flights have been cancelled or delayed as the typhoon shut 4 domestic airports in the coastal area. The authorities also grounded fishing boats in the northern and central regions, and a part of the national highway was also shut down.
The waves were so strong that they slammed the boat to pieces. If I stayed there, I would have died, so I tried to swim to the shore and hope that rescue could come in time.
Before Vietnam, Bualoi claimed at least 24 lives in the Philippines. In fact, it was the second major storm that had threatened parts of Asia in a week. Earlier, deadly super typhoon Ragasa, one of the strongest in years, hit the Philippines and China and dissipated over Vietnam. According to experts, storms like Bualoi are getting stronger and wetter due to global warming. And coastal nations with long shorelines like Vietnam are more vulnerable to bear the nature's wrath due to their location. Moving on, the United States has been shaken by yet another mass shooting. This time, a Mormon church in northern Michigan has been left in ruins after a gunman rammed his truck through the building, opened fire with an assault rifle, and then set the place of worship on fire. At least 4 people are confirmed dead, several others wounded, and the suspect has been killed in a police shootout in the parking lot of the church. President Donald Trump condemned the attack, calling it horrendous and part of what he described as an epidemic of violence against Christians in America. Now, as the rampage unfolded on September 28th, emergency crews raced to the scene. Thick smoke poured out the church as firefighters battled the flames. Police and military personnel sealed off the area, while stunned residents stood in silence, watching their community turn into a crime scene. The attacker was identified as a 40-year-old former Marine Thomas Jacob Sanford. Police say he drove his truck through the front doors and began firing indiscriminately at hundreds of worshippers gathered inside. Authorities add that he used gasoline and fire accelerants to ignite the blaze.
During this incident, what we know right now is that a 40-year-old suspect from Burton, he's a male, he drove his vehicle through the front doors of the church. He then exited his vehicle, firing several rounds at individuals within the church. During all this incident as well, there was a fire that occurred, and we believe that was deliberately set by the suspect.
As police pick through the aftermath, the question of why still remains. Investigators say they are scoring the suspect's background, his home, his devices, his digital footprint, to understand what drove him to this attack. The FBI has also deployed over 100 agents to the area, tasked with collecting evidence and taking statements from dozens of survivors who were inside the church when the massacre began.
We're going to do search warrants on the suspect's residence. We're going to find out if there was a motive. We're going to go through cell phone records, things like that. We had the FBI, they're devoting 100 agents to this area because, as you can imagine, there's a lot of witnesses that were within the church, and that is a lot of witness information, statements that we have to obtain.
The Mormon Church has called this a tragic act of violence, made even more devastating as it comes just a day after the death of its longtime spiritual leader. With gun violence in the United States already at record highs this year, this attack marks the 324th mass shooting in America in 2025. And this, the Mormon Church massacre, stands as the third mass shooting in the US in less than 24 hours. A grim reminder that America's epidemic of gun violence shows no sign of slowing down. In India, the death toll continues to climb following a stampede at a political rally for popular actor turned politician Joseph Vijay Chandrasekhar. He is professionally known as Vijay in southern India. Tamil Nadu Health Minister confirmed that at least 41 people have now died, including 9 children, and over 120 others were injured. Officials said 36 victims were dead upon arrival at hospitals, with 4 more succumbing to injuries later. Most of the injured are reported to be in stable condition, but the families of the deceased are left grieving in shock. Following the stampede, actor Vijay's house received a bomb threat. A team of police officials then rushed to his residence to investigate. Heavy security arrangements were made with bomb squads outside his house. In fact, the tragedy unfolded in Karur district, where tens of thousands had gathered to attend Vijay's rally amid sweltering heat. Vijay celebrated who retired from films in 2024 and launched his political party TVK, was scheduled to speak around noon, but arrived more than 6 hours late.
Giving permission for this rally and letting people assemble here was the worst decision. There was no place for people to exit. There was too much crowding and people simply could not move. There was hardly any police presence. They did not provide any police security, just 1 or 2 officers were there inside. I truly believe if the police security you're seeing right now had come yesterday, many lives would have been saved.
Eyewitnesses described roads choked with people and overwhelmed barricades. Several people fainted during the speech, prompting Vijay to halt his address and call ambulances to assist the injured. The situation turned so deadly when Vijay's vehicle began to leave the venue. Hundreds of fans chased his vehicle, and that is what reportedly led to the stampede. Police noted that the surge occurred as the crowd pressed against barricades to catch a glimpse of Vijay. Authorities had expected around 30,000 attendees, but local reports estimate the presence of over 60,000 people, far exceeding the permitted limit of 10,000. In response to the tragedy, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister announced financial assistance of over $11,000 to the families of each deceased.
With a heavy heart, I pay homage to those who have lost their lives. A compensation of rupees 10 lakh will be provided to the families of the deceased. A compensation of rupees 1 lakh will be provided to those who were injured. I have ordered the formation of an inquiry commission headed by a retired High Court judge.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi called the incident deeply saddening, while Vijay posted on X stating that his heart is shattered. Authorities have filed cases against 3 senior members of Vijay's party over potential charges of homicide and negligent conduct. The rally has left Tamil Nadu in mourning as the death toll rises, underscoring the dangers of overcrowding at mass events and leaving countless families devastated. That's all for today. Thank you for joining us. I am Rishin Galan and we'll see you right back here tomorrow. Until then, stay informed and stay tuned to Firstpost.